family, and painting.
Photography, education, and trees.
3 things that I love. I love my family. I love French fries.
My children, pottery,
school, sports, working hard. To go with my family, my friends, and Aaron Klein.
My husband and my 2 boys.
My wife.
Chicken wings.
God, family, and friends.
Volleyball.
Ooh, that's a hard question.
You would have to ask a lot.
We're taking a while.
A lot.
a lot.
Oh, long time. Long time.
I don't know. A lot.
Yeah, I just don't think I normally just would think about that.
I probably would have never said one of the things that I love as myself.
We think that saying we love ourselves is selfish, that it's something that we just should not do in front of a camera. But in reality, the second leading cause of death for college students is suicide, and 90% of these suicides are because of an underlying mental illness that was never talked about or treated. And a lot of the time, people don't talk about mental illness and they don't tell other people about what they're feeling because we're taught that it's not okay to put ourselves first, when in reality, it's so important.
It is so important to take care of ourselves. We think that taking a nap or going out with friends, going shopping, doing something fun is a want. And that it's something, it's something we want to do, but not something we need to do. And maybe some homework is more important, or writing that essay, or doing your laundry is more important. But in reality, it's taking care of yourself, moving those wants up to your needs, because it's so important to be able to say, I need some me time right now. I need to go watch a Netflix show, or take a nap, or go shopping with my friends, because that's taking care of yourself. It's doing something fun, and it's gonna make your day better, and doing something for yourself every day is how you make your life better, and how you're a happy person. And the worst part of a mental illness is feeling like you don't matter. So you don't take care of yourself. You only do the things that you're told to do, and you don't put yourself before any of that. You have to take care of yourself, because that is how you either you lead a happy life, or you take care of yourself and your illness. A mental illness is a condition that impacts a person's thinking, feeling, or mood, and may affect his or her ability to relate to others and function on a daily basis. It is usually due to a chemical imbalance within the brain. Each person will have different experiences, even people with the same diagnosis. Examples of mental illness include depression, anxiety disorders, schizophrenia, eating disorders, and addictive behaviors. 1 in 4 people will suffer from a mental illness in their lifetime. The other 3 will have a friend or family member who will. With early detection, diagnosis, and a treatment plan consisting of medication, psychotherapy, and lifestyle choices, many people get better. But left untreated, mental illnesses can be devastating, both for the people who have it and for their families. Symptoms may include feelings of helplessness and hopelessness, loss of interest in daily activities, appetite or weight changes, sleep changes, anger or irritability, loss of energy, self-loathing, reckless behavior, concentration problems, and unexplained aches and pains. Since 1965, 6,000 less people die per year from leukemia, 1.1 million less people die from heart disease, 30,000 less people die from AIDS, and 20,000 less people die from a stroke. This is because education has increased on these illnesses. People know to talk to their doctors and loved ones about a broken arm, pains in the chest, stomach problems, etc. However, people don't talk about bad thoughts, being overtired, having negative thoughts about themselves, and even not wanting to continue living. The increase in education on strokes, AIDS, heart disease, and cancers saves millions of lives. Suicide has not decreased because education is lacking. Suicide would follow this trend. Deaths would decrease if education on the illness increased and people understood the symptoms and knew to talk to family and doctors about them. Mental illnesses need to be treated like heart disease so we can save millions of lives from suicide, just like we have from heart attacks. When asked whether or not depression and anxiety are real medical illnesses, 8% responded no. The first step in helping those with mental illnesses is lowering this number to 0, making sure 100% of the population knows that these in fact are real medical illnesses. People also don't realize how widespread mental illnesses are. When asked how many people are affected by mental illness, the majority chose 1 in 10, and 3% even thought only 1 in 50. When in reality, 1 in 4 people are affected by mental illness. Lack of education on mental illness has led to a heavy stigma, as 87% of those asked answered yes to this question. This stigma has made people incorrectly assume that personality flaws and lack of willpower are causes, creating negative stereotypes about those with mental illness. Mental illnesses are caused by chemical imbalances in the brain. There can be many factors that can contribute to the chemical imbalances, such as negative experiences, but mental illnesses are never a choice, and there is no way to simply stop being depressed or anxious just because someone tells you to. Some people still believe that mental illness is a choice, that being depressed is a mood, that people with anxiety need to man up, and that people with PTSD need to just get over it. These are undoubtedly false assumptions that need to be eliminated.
I have always been a big believer in mind over matter. For example, I'm a swimmer, and as my swim coach has taught me, asthma is not an excuse to breathe, because breathing slows you down in swimming. So I have swam myself to the hospital on multiple occasions. And another example, last time I was sick, I did 102 push-ups, 1 for each degree of my fever. Not in a row, but I did them, just because I had to prove that I could. And I can face my fears. When I was 2 years old, I was so afraid of heights that I would look down at that crack between my floor and the elevator floor, and it was just an absolute no. I was just way too scared. So I started climbing trees, and by kindergarten, I was the monkey bar queen. And I started riding roller coasters until eventually I started to enjoy them. And I think at this point it's safe to say that I have faced my fears, because a few months ago I went skydiving and I started taking flying lessons in an effort to get my pilot's license. And all of this was terrifying, but it did not give me anxiety, because anxiety is not a fear that you can face, and it has nothing to do with mind over matter. People are always so surprised when I tell them that I have anxiety, because sure, I can speak in front of a crowd, no problem, and maybe I'm the first to try something that's new and potentially scary, but if I'm sitting alone in the car or taking a shower or falling asleep, I could have a panic attack for absolutely no reason. And it's not something that I can control. Mental illness is not something that anybody can control. A lot of people find it difficult to comprehend this because you really can't understand mental illness until you experience it firsthand. And I am not exempt from this. I remember when I was taking the ACTs for the first time, the girl behind me had a panic attack. And I remember thinking that maybe I could understand what it was like from the movies I've watched and from the books I've read. And maybe it felt like the walls were closing in, and maybe it was hard for her to breathe. And I thought maybe I could understand. But 1 week later, when I had my first panic attack, I realized that I could have never comprehended the unnatural level of emotions and the sense of doom that I felt that accompanies a panic attack until I experienced it firsthand. And sitting in that room before I took the ACTs, I also thought that I was somehow above anxiety, that it could never happen to me because I was too brave or too in control of my emotions. And I did not realize how wrong that I was. Mental illness does not discriminate. It does not matter how strong or how weak you are. It really isn't something that anybody can control, and nobody should be looked down upon for it. And nobody should feel like they're weaker than others or be ashamed of it whatsoever.
In order to fight the stigma, we need to talk about it. So here's how to talk about it. On the helping side, many people without mental illness are hesitant to talk about mental illnesses because they don't know what it's like or what to say. But usually, it is not advice that you need to provide, but support and acceptance. Just listening is usually enough. Make it something you talk about with friends regularly. Always ask how someone is doing and be willing to listen to their feelings. However, since you can't always know what someone is feeling, never tell people to snap out of it or just get over it. On the seeking side, if you are suffering, talk to someone about it. Go to a friend, family member, therapist if you have one, or doctor. If you are having suicidal thoughts, go to the hospital. High schools and colleges have counselors. Use them. Therapists can often be so helpful as well. Saying you have a bad day is okay. Saying you need to talk is okay. And saying you need help is always okay. Getting help does not mean that you are weak. It means that you are strong. I am a camp counselor in the summer, and my campers are between the ages of 6 and 9. One day, one of my campers, who is only 7 years old, had to leave early. The other campers asked her why she was leaving early, and she said, "Because me and my sister are seeing our therapist." And without a single hesitation, she said, "But it's not because I'm crazy. It's because my parents are getting a divorce." What does that say about our community if a 7-year-old feels like her fellow campers would think she is crazy because she sees a therapist? Her parents knew that her and her sister needed a professional to talk to because they were going through a big life change. If you have the opportunity to see your school counselor or see a therapist outside of school, take advantage of that opportunity. Even if you are always happy and are never anxious, seeing someone and talking to them about the little stuff and little problems is always helpful. The word depression kills. When I was diagnosed with depression, I wasn't thinking about what it actually meant. I was thinking that depression was the end, that was it. I was never going to be happy again. That everything I did was going to be a little bit less than what everyone else could do because I would have to work so much harder just to be able to experience one of the most normal things in life, which is happiness. And I didn't know what to do with that. I thought I had never heard a story about someone with depression that had ended happily or that had ended even remotely happily. And all I had heard were the negative stories. So that's what I thought my life was going to be. I thought I was never going to be able to live the life that I wanted to live. And that meant I didn't want to live my life. And I will never forget sitting on my bathroom floor ready to take my own life. And I found that the best way to describe it is inside my head was the very final battle between Voldemort and Harry Potter. And Harry Potter with his red sparks coming out of his wand and Voldemort with the green sparks coming out of his wand, and they met and they had to try and overtake each other. And in my head, the red coming from Harry Potter were the good things people had said to me, the things that I liked about myself and my life. And in that moment, that red was very small, and the green was winning. The green, all of the negatives, all the things I thought about myself and my life that I just hated. But luckily, when you're in that moment, your body takes over, because your body's sole purpose is to make sure you keep living. And somehow my body gave me the memory of a friend who had reminded me how much she cared and how much she loved me, and that made that red somehow come back and conquer the green. And I was able to get up, and when my parents found me, they realized how sick I was and brought me to the emergency room. And a lot of people asked, well, but you were physically fine. Why did you go to the emergency room? And it's important for people to know that even though you couldn't see any damage, I was so sick in my head. And when it was life-threatening, my illness in my brain. And when you have a life-threatening injury, you need to go to the doctor and get help. So they did. They brought me to the emergency room, and after a very long night, a lot of talking, they brought me to a mental institution. And I stayed there for 11 days. And saying mental institution isn't the easiest thing to say, but it's important that people know that there is a place for people who are in that position, who are a danger to themselves and don't know how to carry on. And I spent 11 days with people a lot like me, and it was a lot of work, it was a lot of talking. And once they figured that I was no longer a threat to myself, they let me go. And I did not leave changed. I did not leave 100% okay, but I left with a plan. And I was going to see 2 therapists a week and take a class called diagnostic behavioral therapy, where I would learn how to deal and how to cope with crisis, and how to know how to live with depression and with who I was. And it was a lot of work. But now, after that work has kind of started to slow down, I can say that I am a lot better. And just within a year after being released from the hospital, I can say I'm happy most of the time, and that I'm beginning to be able to say that I think one day I'll be able to say truly that I love myself. And I'm telling this story because it's a positive story, and so that no one out there can say that they have never heard a positive story about depression, because mine is positive. And yes, it was work, and yes, it took a lot, but it's worth it because it's your life. And when I was so depressed and so far down, I thought nobody would help me. I thought nobody would care to help me, and that I was just a burden to everybody around me. And when everything happened, I realized how many people were around me ready to help, ready to talk. And no matter how alone you feel, no matter how drowned you feel, how just you're walking along these streets so sad, so emotional, and nobody seems to care, all you need to say is, I need help. And I guarantee you there will be at least one, probably hundreds, who are ready to say, talk to me, I'm here to help you, what do you need? There's always that person who's going to grab you and help you and say, I'm here to help, I'm here to hug you, I'm here to let you just talk to me, I'm here to listen. And there you have friends, you have family, you have doctors, there are online anonymous help chats, there are free hotlines you can call, there are therapists, there's your school counselor, there are so many people ready to help you, and be sure you use those. You don't have to have a mental illness to use those either. Everyone should be able to talk. Everyone should talk, no matter what. You could have the happiest life. You think your life is perfect. Well, there's still going to be some fight you have with a friend, or some grade you didn't like, that having a therapist or seeing your school counselor, it's gonna help you out. Just having someone to talk to, and when you say, I've had a crappy day, and they say, okay, let's talk about that crappy day, and they'll also be like, yeah, that was a crappy day. Someone to validate your feelings, and it's just so helpful. But this is a positive story. And now you have heard a positive story about depression, and that it's so easy to live with it. And in those worst moments, it feels impossible. But down the road, it's worth it. It's worth the work that you can do. Because I'm sitting here talking to you, telling you a positive story about my depression and my life. I can now say I see a positive future. And there are hundreds more just like me.